I'm Carolee Garrison, and this is Seeking Sunshine, where we find the positive in the trials of life. There are times when life just brings you down, 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 down to the ground. And it's hard when you can't see the light, 'cause things don't look so bright. So now it's time to reframe and retrain your brain. It's time to look for the good. You know that you should. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Do you like this song as much as I do? Ooh, it just gives me goosebumps and makes me want to dance. I am in love with this new version of Seeking Sunshine. This is the title song for my album that is going to come out probably around next February. If you want more information, please sign up and subscribe for emails from my website. My website is caroleegarrison.com. Are you looking for ways to support my podcast? If so, then please like it, subscribe it, and leave it a review. Did you know that if you leave a review, it helps my podcast get shown to more people? I would so appreciate it if you could leave some words in the review box and let people know. Share this with your friends and family and just tell them about the episodes that you really like and some of the takeaways that you've personally received and that have helped you out. Do you have a story to share? I would love to interview you for my podcast. I want to hear all about you and what you've been through and how you've been able to seek sunshine in your journey. Please reach out to me. You can send me a message in DMs on social media, or you can even send me an email at caroleegarrison@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. Hey guys, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. It is feeling really weird to me. It feels like it's been forever. It's probably because I was doing 2 episodes a week and I decided that I needed to slow down before I get burnt out and go back down to 1 episode a week, which is really good for me. And it's been such a crazy week, getting everyone ready for Halloween, which is always crazy with 3 little kids. But then for some reason, my daughter's school decided to have her science project due on Halloween, which that just doesn't make any sense. That seems kind of evil to me. So we've spent all week doing the science project, which if you've ever done a science project with your kids, you know that it is just an astronomical amount of work for both of you, and you end up, tearing your hair out and it becomes a big thing. But anyways, I'm very thankful we got it done. We got it turned in today. It looks beautiful. It might not win any awards for creativity, but it is done. Hallelujah. So I am thankful for that. So anyways, at the end of a crazy, crazy week, I am super duper excited to share with you this really, really, really incredible interview this week. My interview is with Daisy Haro. She's just amazing. You're going to listen to her and your mind is going to be blown. She's been through so much, and yet she's had so much self-growth along the way, and she has so much to teach us. Daisy is a single mom, a writer, a motivational speaker, a goat yoga teacher, and a budding entrepreneur. She's passionate about health, whole body wellness, and how to be good at relationships, and she teaches us so much about that in this interview. So she had an 80-pound weight loss transformation and reclaimed her power through yoga, and now she's on a mission to help others find mental and emotional freedom so that they can chase their dreams and live in bliss too. She's a dreamer, a romantic, an eternal optimist, and she believes in the goodness of people and in finding magic in the mundane, and above all, in happily ever after. She is really just something else, and I am so thrilled to share this interview with you today. Welcome, 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 Daisy. Hello, Daisy. Welcome to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I am so thrilled to have you here.
Hi, yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's talk about you. I want to hear your whole story and everything that you've been through.
Yeah, sounds good. So I feel like my story has really happened in layers over the last 12 years or so. So I'll start from, I guess, the very beginning. So in 2010, I got married. Um,
I feel like that's where all big journeys start.
I know.
That's also where my like crazy like epic story started.
Yes.
Was when I got married in 2008. Like I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's really when my life like went roller coaster."
Yeah, exactly. So it was 2010, I got married, and I had been in a psychologically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally abusive relationship before. And so I don't think I had a very good, how would you say,
Like example, like a good
example,
like
example of
here's
like,
what a good relationship is supposed to look like.
exactly. I just knew it wasn't as bad as the last one. So that must mean that this one is
Oh,
great. Yeah. And looking back now in hindsight, I can see and I can say, and even my ex husband now understands, is that I didn't actually love the person that I married. It was like I made all of these decisions, but I didn't consciously make these choices. I didn't choose these things. It was like I was asleep at the wheel of my own life. So I got married, and I think just the stress of everything, I was eating mindlessly. So I was eating like 3,000 calories every single day. I was just like emotionally eating. So I got up to 230 pounds, and I found, like, I lived on a second floor apartment at the time, and I couldn't get up a single flight of stairs without just like completely losing my breath. And I threw on a 20-minute workout one time, and I like tried to make it through it, and I about passed out, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I was on Netflix, and I stumbled onto the documentary Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, which is this guy who goes on this like 60-day journey of juice cleansing, juice fasting. And I was like, okay, there's something here. So I immediately went out. It was Christmas. I went out and bought myself a Breville juicer for Christmas. And I started juicing apples, carrots, and beets. And I didn't change a single thing about my diet. All I did was add in that juice, and just drinking 20 ounces of apple, beet, and carrot juice every day for 2 weeks. I lost 20 pounds without changing a.
holy cow. I never. So we haven't talked enough for you to know this about me, but I actually my highest weight was around 285 and I had weight loss surgery. And that was after like having three kids. So like I've done the weight thing, like the big girl weight problems. I completely entirely relate to that. But I'm shocked that adding in sugary juice. I mean, okay, beets. That doesn't sound very good, but like apple juice is like all sugar. So I'm really like astounded to hear that like adding in juice, maybe your body was just missing those vitamins.
I think there was a lot to, so the beets are really good detoxifiers for the body. And I just think it was like the beginning of, I just had so much energy too. Like I felt good, and I felt the brain fog was starting to go away. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was this really big wake up call of like, you don't know what feeling good feels like when all you ever feel like is shit.
Whoa. Whoa, mind blowing. That was epic. Yes.
You don't know. And so I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to feel good. So I went on to lose 80 pounds, and then I got pregnant with my son. I gained 65 of it back. I lost
Yeah,
it again.
I was gonna say pregnancy.
I know better now, but that was that. But after I had my son, I had a really, really intense postpartum journey where I didn't have a mom tribe. I felt like I was on an island all by myself. I had no idea what I was doing. And this was kind of the relationship that I was in with my ex-husband was very codependent, and I had no self-confidence, no sense of self-worth. I I didn't trust myself with anything. So this is really embarrassing and vulnerable for me to share, but I didn't leave the house with my son until he was 2.5 alone, because I was like, I don't know how to take care of this tiny helpless human. Like, what if something happens? And that was how little self confidence that I had. And so,
I'm so sorry.
no, it honestly,
It's so tough. And that's honestly that's probably one of the biggest like problems in this entire world is just women not believing in themselves enough.
so much. And you can see where, I mean, as a little girl, I never got asked like, hey, what are your dreams and how are you going to chase them, how are you going to make them happen? It was always like, who are you going to marry, who are you going to find to take care of you? I think as women, I see as women, we get conditioned into sourcing our worth from our partners, finding validation from men. We seek security, not just emotionally or physically, but financially from a partner. And that was a huge.
Okay, we're like Todd, like Disney princesses. Wait for the man to come in and save you.
Yes, exactly.
Like
Damsel in
it's
distress.
like
Yep. Yep. But then there's also the like, I'm a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. There's also that one too. And it's like, yeah, but I see women try to be both. And it's like, you gotta pick one. Like you can't be both when it's convenient for you. Um, but that was, I dealt really heavily with anxiety. And I didn't realize like having a baby, there's so much that goes into that we don't realize. Like, it severely depletes your minerals, your hormones are flip-flopped upside down. Now you're sleep deprived, you're sleeping, waking up every two
that's
hours
exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, the sleep deprivation on top of everything that your body has been through will smash your brain
Yes,
just to pieces. Like it's just like non-existent.
absolutely. In fact, I'm afraid to have another, like, I want children, another baby, at least one more. I would love to have a little girl one day, but I'm afraid because I'm like, if my son, he's 8 now, he just turned 8. If I don't have my like full 7 to 9 hours, like I feel myself starting to get anxious again. And I'm like, I cannot go back there. And so I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make it having another kid, but you've got all of that coming into play, and then you have a diet, because I was still eating like crap all the time. Your blood sugar is out of whack. Blood sugar plays so much, not only into like mental and emotional health, but physical health too. Like, we don't realize how, if we eat a super high carbohydrate diet, it spikes your blood sugar. So you have the 230 crash. And, there's so much that like we just don't realize lies in the hands of what we eat every day and what we put into our bodies. And so I that was a part of it, was the physical, like the nutritional aspect. And I've also since learned that, mood disorders, things like anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD, are largely attributed to vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And so it's like, how empowering to realize that you're not your label. You are not a label. You can change these things. It's diet, it's vitamins, minerals, it's trauma, looking at your childhood, addressing all of these things. And so I I was suffering physically, so I lost all this weight. And I was like, I got down to 150 pounds, and yet I hate myself more than I ever have. Why is that? You think the goal weight, the number on the scale, is going to just like magically fix everything. I think we're really bad about doing that, right? Like, when I get married, when I have the baby, when I get the degree, when I lose the weight, I'm all of a sudden it's just gonna fix everything, and I'm gonna live happily ever after. And it's like, nope.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
Actually.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. And so then my focus started to shift, because I'm like, what does it matter if I have the kid up to body, if I look hot, but I'm still shattered inside and I'm still mentally imprisoned, like I'm still not happy, I'm still miserable. And so I was still struggling with anxiety. And then I found yoga. And so I was literally in the middle of a panic attack in my living room, and I'm by myself, and I'm like, this is stupid. There's no reason why. Like, why am I sitting here anxious? There's not a bear, I'm under no threat. Like, I'm alone in my own home. Like, what the hell? And so I YouTubed yoga for anxiety, and I found yoga with Adriene. And I did my first yoga practice in my living room. And I was like, oh man, this is what it feels like to feel peace. I'm onto something. And so I started practicing yoga, and that was 2015. It wasn't until 2018. So in 2016 is when I started to realize, like, I don't want to be married to this person. This is not the person. This is not the man I envisioned being the father of my children. And it's one of those things that I didn't see it until after we had a son together. And then I was like, oh,
Well, and kids will bring it out. I mean, having kids is like the hardest thing
it'll make
ever.
or break you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I was like starting to come to terms with that, but it took literally years. So in 2016 was when I was like, I don't want to be married to this person anymore. And it wasn't until 2019 that we actually got divorced. So it was like 3 years of me like sitting on the fence, which, I feel awful that like I I sat on the fence for years waiting for him to be the one, and he never was. No amount of time was going to change that. And if all I did was steal his life and mine by waiting for something that was never meant to happen anyway. And so I always tell people, like, indecision is a decision. If you can't, if for whatever reason, there's this quote that's like the hardest no is always the one that's closest to a yes. And I think that's so true. Like you just want so badly, like, I wish you were the one, but you're not. And I don't know why. All I know is that I this isn't in alignment. I can't do this anymore. So I stepped foot in a hot yoga class September of 2018. And that was like, oh man, I was just on fire because I was working 50, 60-hour weeks. I was just like running myself ragged. So it was like that 5:30 a.m. class every morning was like my sanctuary. I couldn't function without going
Okay.
hot.
I definitely like laughed a lot. I had myself muted so you couldn't hear me. I laughed a lot when you were all like, I went to hot yoga and I was on fire. And I'm like, okay. They set you on fire in hot yoga. Oh no. Okay, just kidding.
No, but it was.
I know. I'm totally kidding.
So it was like there was music. I don't know if you've ever done yoga before, but there's a term called yoga spoon.
I'm familiar with it. I haven't like really dived into it, but I'm decently familiar with it. And I know what hot yoga is.
But I highly recommend, if you are someone who's like constantly stressed, you're very tightly wound, hot yoga, like it gets you moving. And so what I learned from that was like, I really started opening up and realizing that there was so much shit that I hadn't healed from my entire life. And it was like in moving and taking up space, I was starting to reclaim my power. I started becoming confident. And then I realized, like, you can't go out, like, confidence is accessible to anyone, but not all of us are confident. And yet confidence isn't something that you can go out and buy. So like,
Okay, so I have to pause for 1 second because I just had this the other day. I can't even remember what I was listening to, and all of a sudden I just like felt just like inspiration hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, the opposite of anxiety is confidence.
yeah, true.
Yes.
Yes. No. And so I I just realized that, like, if I can go from 230 pounds, no confidence, no self-esteem, to 150, feeling like I'm ready to take on the damn world, even as a single mom, like, if I can get there, literally anybody can. I don't, and so that's why I'm like, I want to teach people how to reclaim their power because, um, yes, I'm a single mom. No, I'm no longer married, and yet I'm the happiest I've ever been. And I'm in a home that I love, in a city that I love, pursuing work that is meaningful to me. And and so those were kind of like the first couple of layers of my life. But then comes like the most recent layer. So I got divorced, and um I met someone while I was out swing dancing, and I
Swing
got
dancing is so much fun. I love swing dancing.
so much fun. So I got dragged out to this dance by my best friend, and I didn't want to go. I did not want to go because I had just gotten stood up on a date. And I was like, I'm not feeling it. And she's like, you're going. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go, but I'm not dressing up. Well, the joke was on me because I showed up. It was the biggest dance of the year. They had a live band. I had no idea. Literally, everyone was dressed up. I show up in a t shirt and jeans, which, if you know me, I would always rather be overdressed rather than under. So this was like a nightmare. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a freaking t-shirt and ripped jeans, and everyone is in these like pretty swing dresses looking like Cinderella, and I'm looking like a scrub. And so I see this guy from across the gym floor, and I was like, wow, he's really cute. And so I had my best friend, I'm like, go do recon for me. Like, make sure he's not crazy, make sure he's not gay. Like, just, like,
All
so
the things. Let's check it all out here.
waste my time. And she's like, you should go ask him to dance. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. In my fairy tale, the man makes the first move. So he can ask me to dance. And she's like, you're going to be single for the rest of your life if you keep that shit up. And I was like, so eventually I finally, it was like the night was almost over, but I went and asked him to dance. And we danced the whole rest of the night. And then we go out to dinner and we're like talking the whole time. And I was just like, man, like I feel like I've known this person for forever. So we ended up becoming best friends, dance partners. And then we started dating almost a year later. We started dating, and it was, I mean, it was just perfect. We were so like out of our minds in love. Like, it was the fairy tale. He A couple months in, he'd surprised me with a trip to Italy, which has like been on my bucket list. It's a dream.
Ooh.
Well, so the fairy tale didn't quite work out because we were supposed to go in May of 2020 and COVID hit. Or
Dang.
it was I
Dang,
was
COVID.
it just shut the world down 3 months before we were supposed to go. So that dream flew out the window. But that was really the beginning of me waking up to my childhood trauma, because there were times during COVID that I couldn't see him because we were quarantined. And, we're not like living together, we're not married. So, like, I can't see him, which I understand, but it felt like we were breaking up. It felt like I was being abandoned, even though I'm like, if you love me, we're still together. Why does this hurt so much? Why am I sad? Why am I crying? Why do I feel like you're leaving me? Why does this hurt so bad? And I think it was such a shock to my nervous system because my ex-husband never triggered me. And I realized it's because I didn't love him, right? Like, if you don't love someone, they're not going to trigger you. And if you do love someone, they are going to deeply trigger you because our attachments, our intimate relationships so closely mimic the dynamic that we have with our earliest caregivers, our parents. And so I was like, why am I getting triggered all the time? Why are you hurting me? You're the problem. I need to leave. Like, I need to get away from you so that I never have to be triggered. And I didn't realize, like, oh, it's my own shit coming up to the surface. And so I had been introduced to attachment theory a couple of times leading up to our relationship, but it's like it never sank in. And I even went through yoga teacher training, and they beat me over the head with trauma. And it was like, yeah, in one ear and out the other, but it's like none of it clicked, none of it made sense until I was in relationship with somebody that I deeply loved. And now all of my childhood shit's being triggered. And so,
It's so funny to like think of it in that way because I don't think I ever have. Because like it's not gonna hurt if you don't actually care that much. And it's like just the other day, my husband was telling me that like he had this dream that I had cheated on him, and he was like so distraught. And I'm like, obviously, like I'm not cheating on you, but like it wouldn't have hurt as much. Like he wouldn't have ever even had that dream if
yeah,
he didn't care.
that's like the inner child, right? Like, you're going to leave me, you're going to abandon me. And so I started to, and what's funny is I'd gone to therapy right before he and I started dating. And the therapist was like, I'd like to evaluate your relationship with your father. And I was just like, I don't know who the hell you are, but we aren't touching that. I am
I'm out of
fine.
that 10-foot pole.
Exactly. So I was in denial. And then about a year and a half later, I realized like I would get triggered. Like I would just out of nowhere, I'm like, you know what? What if he leaves me? What if he finds somebody better? What if? And my mind would just like spiral out of control. And I would start having panic attacks again. So it was like I cured my anxiety on one hand postpartum, but now I'm suffering from the same thing, just in a different circumstances. And so I thought he was the problem. I'm like, well, I didn't feel like this before. So clearly he's the problem. So if I need to leave him, right? I need to get rid of the problem. And then, we ended up breaking up in December of last year. And I was like, wait, I'm still getting triggered by him, even though we're not in a relationship anymore. So it's not like that didn't solve a damn thing. And I'm still in love with this person. Now it just hurts. And now I have all this grief. And like, I realized that I wasn't taking responsibility for my side of the street and for my own shit because in learning about attachment theory, there's anxious attachment and there's four types, but the types that apply to me are anxious and avoidant. I was anxious, he was avoidant. And the avoidant shuts down, they withdraw, they create space. The anxious, the stage 5 clinger, right? They protest, they want more closeness. Come back, I don't want you to go, I want more time with you. And what's interesting is at their core, both are deeply afraid of being abandoned. They just handle it in completely polar opposite ways. And so,
I love this information, which don't like I'm familiar with all this information. I kind of studied this in college a little bit, but like it is so relevant to our lives. And sometimes we like, I don't know, we look at some of the things that maybe we learned in college or we heard here and there, and we're like, whatever. And there was a time in your life when you were like, whatever, I don't need this. But like if you really like sit with it, it can be so life-changing.
and if you think about it too, I think why one, I'm a Libra, so I'm the lover of the zodiac. I've always been crazy about relationships and happily ever after, and the dream. Um, and I'm a girl. But I think why I'm so passionate about relationships and how to be good at them is because one, we're never taught that, right? We aren't taught how to relate or how to relate well, how to communicate in healthy ways. But
We are
it
pretty much taught by the example of our parents. Like
exactly.
that's pretty much our world for the first 18 years of our life. And then at 18, we sort of jump in. I mean, okay, I jumped in at 18. Maybe you didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because I hadn't been single since I was 17 until I broke up with, Brandon, the love of my life last year. So that was a huge wake up call. But it's like, relationships are at the core of literally everything that we do. It's not just love, it's family, it's friends, it's business, it's everything. So why not try to be good at relationships? And, I think most people, like nobody wants to talk about it, right? Because it brings shame. But how many people grew up with parents who yelled when they got angry or who were verbally abusive or hypercritical or like, our parents, we would love to think that they're infallible, right? But they were just humans going through their own shit,
Well, and
raising.
honestly, most of our parents were just doing what they were taught by their parents. And we're only like just coming to this place in the world where we're actually starting to go, wait a minute, let's analyze this a little bit and look at these patterns and see how these are not healthy. But when our parents, started having kids, this wasn't really talked about. This wasn't really a thing. And so for the most part, like our generation, our parents were just doing what they were taught and doing their best. There wasn't a whole lot of like stopping these negative patterns quite yet. And maybe they tried, but it just wasn't like talked about and specified and identified.
And you don't know what you don't know, right? Like I am an incredibly different, I'm a vastly different parent today than I was 5 years ago. And that's why I'm so grateful with the relationship that I had with Brandon, because it woke me up to, oh my goodness, if I don't change how I'm showing up as a parent, I'm going to end up hurting my son in the same way. And so because I was like, I don't understand, both of my parents were married, they're still together, so why am I having daddy issues, and it's like, well, if when I started to look at my childhood from an honest, a compassionately honest lens, what I saw was while my dad was home during the evenings, he was too tired to play, which I fully understand. I, as a parent, often, a single mom especially, there are so many times where I'm physically present for my son, but I'm not mentally or emotionally present. I'm not able to show up for him because I'm so freaking tired. So I get it. But my dad was home, but he was tired. So we really only hung out on the weekends. He worked all the time to give us a life that he didn't have. I love and respect him deeply for that. I don't fault him. He was doing better than he was raised by my grandpa. And I get that. And while my mom was physically present, she was emotionally absent because my little brother was in and out of the hospital growing up with this crazy heart defect that he had to have all these massive heart surgeries for. So it's like I was alone to fend for myself a lot of the time, not physically, but in an emotional sense. I'd have these big, overwhelming emotions, and it was like I couldn't go to anyone. And so I would just be alone on the couch, covering myself with pillows, crying, not knowing, like, I didn't know what it meant to regulate my emotions. And this is even after yoga teacher training. Like, when you get triggered, what do you do? What I would do is I would lash out at Brandon and be like, I'm hurting and you're doing this to me. And I didn't understand that, like, it's not Brandon. Brandon's not hurting me. This is the past speaking. This is your childhood trauma. You're feeling abandoned because you missed your dad growing up. And it's like my dad was there, and yet my experience was, but I wanted to spend more time with you. And so I think that that's what we fail to acknowledge about trauma is it's not the event, it's your experience of the event. So you could have two people have the exact same event, but an entirely different experience. And one is traumatized and the other isn't. And so it's like trauma is so highly individualized that and we think it's reserved only for war veterans, right, dealing with PTSD. And it's like, no, there's little traumas all the time, whether it's a relationship with a partner, with your parents, with a sibling. It doesn't have to be a death or something crazy like a terrorist attack. It's little things too. And so that relationship really like woke me up to like, whoa, I have.
I want to say just like amen to all of that. Like it is so true. And as a parent, like you can do your absolute best and just circumstances like there are gonna be things that you just can't control that are gonna cause trauma for your kids, and that sucks. And the best that you can do is to teach them like how to deal with that trauma. And it is like it's so heartbreaking. So I have three kids on the autism spectrum, and my youngest is has some degree of PTSD and trauma because, well, he almost died when he was born, which was really traumatic. And then my husband was in and out of the hospital for his first few years of life, and then his brother is severely autistic and nonverbal and has type 1 diabetes. So he's grown up with this brother who's gotten all the attention because otherwise he was going to run in the middle of the road and die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm realizing more and more and more like how much, like, my son's 8 now, so he's the same age as your son, my youngest is. And I'm just seeing like with more and more clarity how his early years have affected him now. And it's heartbreaking, but it's like I couldn't have done anything different.
And now you can, right?
Well,
And that's
no, because I mean he still has a brother who has type 1 diabetes who like requires more attention, but I can teach him in different ways. Like there are different things I can do, but at the same time, it's still the cards have landed where they are. Like yeah.
No, and I hear you there because, and this is why I share my experience. It's like one thing affects all things, right? We don't think about like, and I started seeing the same, I was repeating the same pattern. I was working all the time. I was never home. My son, I was missing him growing up. Yes, I was trying to provide for him financially, but it was like, what does it matter if I'm never around to spend the money that I'm trying to make?
What's the cost?
Exactly, exactly. And is it worth the cost? Is it worth the sacrifice? And I see, you know, when my son was a newborn, an infant, a toddler, and he would cry and scream and throw a tantrum, I couldn't handle it. I would get angry. I would yell because it was like I didn't know how to handle my own emotions. How am I supposed to handle someone else's?
Well, and honestly, our kids, like, they know how to trigger us more than
Oh,
anybody else in the entire world.
you like a fiddle if you let them, right? Like they're so good at it. So you're right, it was deeply triggering because I'm like, why can't you just stop crying? I don't understand. But it's like, oh, now that I know how to manage my emotions, I can show him how to manage his own, how to regulate himself. I can, when he cries, it's no longer an inconvenience for me. I want to comfort him. Come here, let me hold you. I don't put a time. And that's, I think that I was such a control freak. So I was like, this is inconvenient for me right now. I don't want to deal with it. Right. But it's like, but I can't control. He's an entirely different human with his own agency. Like I can't. So that was a learning lesson for me of like, I can't tell you wait until 8 o'clock on a Monday to cry because that's when it works for me. Like I got to learn how to, I have to change. I can't change him. And so and then I started to realize, on top of my childhood trauma, there were also other elements that were putting massive amounts of pressure on our relationship, which is partly why it ended. I wanted to get married and I unconditionally love this human and I wanted to marry him because I wanted to marry him, but also I wanted to get married so that I could be taken care of, so that I could leave my corporate job, so that could become an entrepreneur. And I've always
Live the fairy tale.
exactly. I've always wanted to be my own boss, and I felt like I couldn't start my own business until I got married and someone was taking care of me to provide that freedom. But when you look at it like that, it's like I'm surrendering, I'm giving my power away. I'm putting my life at the hands of someone that I cannot control, and that's bullshit. So there was a day that I had this like massive epiphany where I was like, I don't have to get married. I literally could go take out a small business loan and quit my job tomorrow if I wanted to and not have to get married to do any of that. And then it doesn't matter, right? So then I'm not marrying somebody for their pocketbook. I'm marrying somebody because I love them and I want to spend my life with them. And I
Yay!
right. But I see that in women where it's like they get married so a man can take care of them so they can, live the good life, live the high life. I just don't know.
Well, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the woman, like for sure. Like it's not fair for us to shortcut ourselves
It's
like so much. But it's also not fair to the guy. It's also not fair to him for it to just be like put on him like that. Like they're people too
I know.
with their own emotions and like for them to be like shoved into this like you must provide like that is your identity like that's just as unfair as women, like your role is to be the mother and stay home all the time. Like it's just as unfair.
It's imbalanced. It's heavily imbalanced. And I think that it takes away, I firmly believe that we are divine beings who are inherently powerful, and we give away our power in a million
Yes.
different ways, right? Like we both as men and as women, we show up in these distorted dynamics where, in my previous marriage, it was like I was the child and he was my parent. And it's like, that's not a partnership. We're not equals. You're taking care of me like I'm a 5-year-old kid. And there's something so warped about that. But
Well, and
we,
that happens way too often in
well,
relationships.
and that's what's crazy is we didn't intentionally choose that dynamic. It was like we just fell into it because we didn't know any different. He was just recreating, it's like we were repeating the cycle, which is when you're asleep at the wheel of your own life, that's what you do. So, uh, so that was, whenever we broke up, I mean, that was the greatest heartbreak that I've ever felt. I've never hurt so deeply because I was like, I still want to marry this person. Like this was still the one for me. And so I ended up, have you ever heard of Mark Groves on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had been following him for a while, and his fiance, Kylie Macbeth, ran this program called Anchored. And I had listened to her episodes a couple of times through his podcast where she was like, you know, I realized that I was sourcing safety, validation, security, worth from Mark. And I realized like I don't want to be there anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I was like, homegirl, sign me up. Like where? So I joined that program in January. Brandon and I broke up in December. And I was like, all right, I'm going all in. I'm going on a heart sabbatical, what I called my own man talks. So I cut out all men. I didn't date. I didn't talk to any guys, even just as friends. I cut out alcohol. I was like, I'm removing all distractions. I want to face my shit because I don't want to be in the same freaking spot, sabotaging my relationships and losing the people that I love and want to spend my life with for the rest of my life. Like this will be the last time. I will not make the same mistake twice. And so I just like buried my head in the sand and I focused on my healing. And it was so hard. And it was so, because, it's like you see happy people everywhere and you're like, why am I hurting? Like, why am I the one dealing with this? Like, why me? Why me? Right? Like, it's so easy to feel like you're the only person on the planet dealing with heartbreak. And especially during the holidays, and like my best friend was having a baby. And so it was just like, I see happy people everywhere and I just want to scream, like, this is not fair.
Well, and people seem happy. And like we've had holidays where gosh, well, we had one particular Christmas we had just moved away from family, but like there I was with my three little kids and my husband, like just sobbing because it was just the worst Christmas ever.
Yeah,
Like, and it's like, like I'm looking at it, I'm like, I had three kids and a husband,
not everything.
like what? But like I was heartbroken because I was away from like my parents and my siblings, where we always had this huge Christmas thing, and it was all of a sudden on me, and I felt so lonely. And it's like, oh wait, you look back and you're like, maybe I didn't need to be quite as heartbroken as I was.
Right. No, but also too like honoring that that's okay too. I think we carry, and I teach this because I teach goat yoga on the side. That's like one of my side hustles, and I always teach that like it's so easy to label our emotions, right? We label them good or bad or right or wrong, but how much shame and guilt and suffering does that bring us? And it doesn't need to. And so I like to teach and encourage my students to view their emotions through the lens of neutrality, with acceptance, with gratitude, not giving them, not judging them, not labeling them, just allowing them to be, because they're all messengers. They all have such wisdom to bring, even grief, the sadness, because you can't know love without grief. And it's so like I feel like I have a greater capacity to love now because I was willing to feel such deep sadness. Like you can't know one without the other. You shut one out, you shut the love out, right?
That's so beautiful. Like that whole thing. That was so beautiful. I love that.
But I'm grateful for it because it's like, I hated it at the time, healing. And yet I'm so glad that I did, because now I can be secure in a relationship. Now I don't have to self-sabotage. Now, the man that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with can show up at my doorstep, and I'm not gonna like push him away and let my shit get in the way, because I've dealt with my shit. And so I always tell people like, if you could slingshot yourself 6 months into the future by going to therapy, by joining a group of like sacred sisterhood or sacred brotherhood, like why wouldn't you? There's such a stigma with mental health, and it's like, okay, but when your car breaks down, you go to the mechanic. When your sink breaks down, you call the plumber. So when your mind or heart are broken, why wouldn't you go see a therapist? Like,
Well,
why?
and honestly, we don't have to wait until we're broken. Like self-improvement should be something that we are always constantly prioritizing in our lives. And as a general like culture, it is not a thing. Like it's
Yes, no,
becoming more and more, but like
yeah,
it's so important to
yes.
like look at those traumas and to heal and to find someone to guide you in that process. Like it's essential, and it will change your entire life.
Absolutely. And I love to think about this too. Like we can literally change the entire trajectory of humanity just by healing ourselves, because we heal ourselves, we heal our children, our children's children, our grandchildren. Like
Yes.
it's a ripple effect, and we change the people around us, we change our friendships, we change our parents, we change our partners. Like we don't realize just how far reaching it goes, and it's so 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 worth it. But there's Zachary Levi, who was the actor who played Chuck. He talks about mental
Yeah,
floss.
he also played
She's
Entangled.
single. That's
Yes, he was Entangled.
that movie with a Pascal, the little chameleon. He's so cute. I love him. But I need to watch that movie. But no, Chuck, he talks about, or Zach, he talks about like mental floss. You floss your teeth every day. Why wouldn't you floss your mind every day? Why wouldn't you do things like meditation, yoga? Like you gotta, just like we brush our teeth, we need to tend to our mental gardens as well and
Yes. So
create.
much. Yes. I love it.
But um yeah, I just, that kind of set me on a mission to like, I want to talk about these things because I would have given anything to hear a story like mine when I was suffering, whether as a brand new mom or in this relationship with Brandon. Like, I, people need hope. They need to know, you are not your patterns. You are not the behaviors. You are not the way that you respond in conflict. Like you can change those things. You are not your attachment style. You're not your mental health labels. Like you can change, you can heal.
And there's this incredible future ahead of you. It's there.
And
It's
it's
really there. It's really, really, really ahead of you. It's incredible and mind blowing, and you don't even understand the capacity. Like, you don't even know what incredible things are in store for you.
And that, so you say that and I'm like, you know what, you're exactly right. Because so Mark co-founded a mental health platform called Mind with a man named Aaron Albert, who was like a child actor, but he was going through a breakup and like reached out to Mark and was like, hey, I think we should work together. Like, here's my idea. So they created this mental health app, and I actually started using it just as Brandon and I were breaking up, because I was like, oh my gosh, I would just want to immerse myself in all this. Like, I just want to heal. I'm so ready to be there and not here, because I never want to be in this space again of self abandonment, of chasing love, of feeling like I have to earn love. And so I started using the app. And this last May, I was in San Antonio celebrating Cinco de Mayo with my family. And I get on my computer to check my email, and I have an email from Aaron Albert of Mind. And he's like, hey, we noticed that you're one of our more active users. I would love to have a meeting with you and figure out like what I know. I was like, is
Ooh, that's awesome.
being punked? Like, is this real life? And I really thought, like, is this some automated email, or like, it's not even Aaron's real. And it was him. It was him. So we booked a time. We met. I told him my whole story. And it was really this beautiful full circle moment, because it was like, I literally wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my breakup with Brandon. Like, finally, the pain has gained its meaning. The suffering has gained its
You
meaning.
found the sunshine in the hardest thing. You found it.
I found the sunshine. And even cooler, so he was just like, I want to stay in touch. This is not the last time we'll be speaking. And I ended up getting a personal invite to their super users group. So anytime the app just underwent this massive like makeover facelift, and the group, it's less than 100 people. I think it's only like 50 of us out of the thousands of people that use the app. We got the first hands-on access to the app to be able to give feedback and say, here's what I love, here's what I don't like. And what they did with the app was directly based off the feedback that people like me gave. And so it's like they really truly are, focused on their user base. Like, they cater to us as the users. But it's just really cool. We've had 2 town halls. We'll have our third one at the end of this month. But I get to be in the same room as Mark Groves and Aaron Albert, and like talking to them one on one. And it was actually really cool because Brandon, our first Christmas together, he hand carved a wooden ohm. Because it's a beautiful, I had to show it to you. It's like my most precious gift ever, because I was going through yoga teacher training and I was learning about Om and everything that it stood for. And I was telling Brandon about it one night after dinner or over dinner. And he was like, is that the Mexican guy that looks like he's right? Or the guy with the sombrero that looks like he's writing a number 3? And I'm like, yes, that's the Om. That's
I'm dying. That's the funniest description.
cute. So and it's just I'm like, this is why I love you. Like this, I can't help but love you. It's just you're precious. So I actually the last meeting, I got to show Mark, like, hey, here's my favorite handmade gift. Brandon made this for me. Brandon is the reason why I started using the app and why I'm in a freaking room with you. And it just felt like, again, the full circle of like, the suffering has gained its meaning. And then I got to, so Brandon and I, the happiness, the sunshine also, we reconnected at a dance a couple months ago.
Oh, good.
And
I was really like hoping you guys ended back up together because, yeah.
so we reconnected. We're best friends and dance partners again. And I got to tell him, like, I got to show off your wooden to freaking MF and Mark Groves. And freaking Brandon, he was like, does he want to buy an Like, does he want me to make him one? I'm like, oh my
So
God,
funny.
ridiculous. But it was so special and so precious. And
So
I,
I wanna say a couple things here. Like, okay, so they reached out to you, which the really incredible thing here is that like it was him personally and not like somebody from his team, right? Like it was like
him,
him
his,
personally. And then I want to mention like how just like healing and essential like connection is. Like just like across the world, across everything, like connecting with people, which is
yeah,
like what we are doing right now. Like, I love this
it's powerful.
so much. It is so powerful. And that's like what this world needs more of. Like, we have all this technology, and it's like we put stuff out in the world, but it's not connection.
We're so connected, we're disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the talking, it's the communicating, it's the hearing each other's stories. Like that's what we need more of in this world.
Absolutely. And to be vulnerable, right? And I think that that's such an important takeaway is we get conditioned that sadness is weakness, not just as little girls but men, right? I feel
Well, and we get conditioned that people don't want to hear sadness. People
exactly.
don't want to hear about weakness. They only want to hear and gosh, so I'm a singer-songwriter. When like I was first starting, I was like, "Oh, I only want to write happy songs. I only want to write about joy. I only want to write about I want to inspire people." And I was like so forced and it like just fell super flat. And then like I went through this healing journey where I had a coach and I did all this healing stuff and like one of the like my second single that came out is called Apathy.
Mm,
And it's a love song to apathy.
right.
Right? And it's like that's where the
You
connection is.
that's where people relate, right? Because like happiness, there's no shortage of that, but like think about like you made me think of John Mayer, "Slow Dancing in a Burning Room." Like that song rips my damn heart out, but there's just you can like feel the pain, and you can just when you're going through a heartbreak, like woo, how many times did I cry to that damn song? Like it just there's some the so Otis Redding, all the soul, the blues, like there's a reason why we love that stuff. Like the sadness is equally important and
That's what connects us.
it
We are
resonates.
we are all humans having this human experience that includes so much sadness. And yeah, like I'm all about seeking sunshine and looking for the joy, but like it's when you're in the middle of that and connecting, like that's where sunshine is in the connection of
Exactly.
I've been hurt, I'm hurting, and so have you. Like we feel it in each other, and that's where that vibe is.
Yes. And it's so funny that you say that because I had my Instagram, and as I was like going through that breakup, it's like my writing for me is so cathartic. And it was like I was processing that breakup through the content that I was posting because I was like, I don't know how else to sit and handle and heal from this. And if this helps even just one other person on this earth, I need to share it. Yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, it's ugly. Yes, it's so sad. It's so heartbreaking.
Well,
And
and
yet,
can we be honest? Like that one person that's being helped from it is you, and that's enough.
absolutely. Yeah, so true. And then I started having friends reach out to me that were like, dude, you like moved me to tears. Like and I'm like, you know what? If I can help people remember how to feel, how to come back to the heart space how to like listen to the soul, then it was all worth it. Like that. And so it was like it became a mission almost for me to like, I need to share these things because I want to help somebody else get to happily ever after. If we couldn't make it, I want to help somebody else get there. And so I really feel like that's why I want to share all of these things, because I want people to see like, and that's the other thing too. And I've told Brandon this, like, there is no way I'd be able to come back to him and be his friend, still being in love with him, were it not for the healing work that I've done. There's just no way. In fact, when we broke up, I was like, that's it. I just lost my best friend. I'm never going to talk to him again. I'm never going to see him again. And that like just broke me. And I don't think it would have hurt quite nearly as deeply if he wasn't my best friend. I think that was the hardest part, is like, oh man, who am I going to send my memes to now? Who, and you can't find a connection like that just anywhere. You can try to recreate that. You can search for that in everyone that you meet. But, when you find your person, it's like you can't fake what isn't there. And so that was kind of really, really hard for me to like, oh my God, I just lost my best friend. Like this just sucks. But I knew that I had to do it, and I knew that I had to focus on it, and I would still do it all over again if I had to, because I'm in so much better of a place now. I feel like that was like the last and final step to me reclaiming my power, is like, I hope one day Brandon and I work out, and I would, he's still the man I want to marry. But at the same time, like, okay, but if it doesn't, it won't kill me. It won't end me. It won't be the end of my world. Like, I think that that's such an important thing to find alignment. Okay, well, if this person isn't meant for me, that means there's somebody else out there who is, and I'm going to find it. I'll find them. They'll find me. And that's the other thing too, is like not searching for love, but like I need to work on myself in the meantime and become who I want to attract, right? Like law of attraction, like attracts like, what you seek is seeking you. So are you the kind of person that you would want to marry, And I think that that is where we spend so much of our lives searching for the one rather than becoming the one.
Yes. I love that. I
And
love that.
like, how else do you reclaim your power, right? Like, why put your life in somebody else's hands? Like, why not take responsibility for your side of the street, for your trauma, to be not brutally honest, compassionately honest, and say, like, here's where my shit's getting in the way of me living my happily ever after, of me chasing the life of my dreams. I don't know if you watched Brene Brown, but I watched her get interviewed by Tim Ferriss, and she's like, there's a certain point where the universe comes down and grabs you by the shoulders and says like, I'm done fucking around, time is up. Like, all this shit that's gotten in the way, the armor that you've used, it's kept you from using the gifts that I've given you. That is not without penalty. Like, time is up, right? So we come to, and that's, we call it the midlife crisis, but it's anything but that. She calls it it's a slow, brutal unraveling of like, oh, this is where I've walled up and I've not allowed anyone to love me. And I thought that it kept me safe, but it actually keeps me lonely and broken and bitter and cold. And my heart is hardened now. And like, like, that's not the life that I want to live. I want the greatest, biggest love. We all deserve that. But I love how she talks about, at a certain point, you come to a fork in the road and it's your choice to make. Do you want to stay asleep, or do you want to wake up to the life that you're meant to live? And I also saw that too, where it's like, me, Brandon, everyone that I know, we are perfectly able-bodied human beings. We are intelligent human beings. We have great big dreams. And yet, how many of us are not living those dreams, and why? Right? It's like we mentally imprison ourselves with all these self-limiting beliefs, the self-doubt, the lack of confidence, the lack of courage. And it's just such bullshit. Like, I'm here to rebel. Like, I will not die with my dreams intact. Like, absolutely not. And I don't want that to be anyone else's reality too. And so it's like, that is like the core of my mission, is like, if I can have my dreams, you can too. Let's get there together. How do we get there together? How do we reclaim our power?
Yes. Yes. So tell me more about your mission, about what you're doing with it. Like, do you have a podcast? Like,
Yeah.
tell us all these things.
So right now, really the core of my mission I have realized is, I thought I wanted to be a naturopathic doctor because I'm so passionate about holistic health. And I've realized that health is not just physical wellness, it's mental freedom, it's emotional freedom, right? To not be riddled with anxiety, to be able to pursue my dreams fearlessly and without being held back by self-doubt, by a lack of confidence. And so it's like, for me, it's whole body wellness. I want, like, freedom is my number one priority. It always will be. But I'm like, I don't just want physical freedom. I want mental freedom. I want emotional freedom. And I want to help other people find the same. And so what I'm doing is, my first passion project is creating a course focusing on whole body wellness for postpartum moms struggling with anxiety. It's not just looking at the nutritional aspect, but the mental and emotional aspects, looking at childhood trauma, incorporating things like movement, yoga, breath work, mindfulness. And then also the nutritional aspect, regulating your blood sugar. Are you getting enough fatty acids? How are your minerals? Are you sleeping enough? Are you mindfully moving and discharging all of the energy, the stress? Um, and just sharing my own, my own survival guide to lend it to somebody else in hopes that nobody else has to struggle silently and alone like I did. So that's what I'm working on now. But I also am writing a book. I would love to be a motivational speaker. Public speaking is, it's one of my gifts, but it's the thing that sets my soul on fire. I love getting on a stage and just letting my light shine and just flowing and speaking and motivating and inspiring people.
And I could so see you doing that. Like, you would rock the stage just so much.
Thank you. I'm working on it. So it's like, I have all of these things that I want to do. I'm trying to, right now, I'm guesting on podcasts because I work a full-time job. Um, I want to be my own boss. So I'm creating this course. I teach goat yoga on the side. And I'm guesting on podcasts for right now only because I don't have the free time yet. Keyword is yet. I will get there. But my goal is just to get my voice out there so that I can grow my Instagram audience, so that I can launch my course and sell it to my audience once it's.
Well, tell us what your Instagram handle is so we can all go follow you.
So it's Daisy Untamed. And funny story there. So I was like 2 weeks away from going back to school to become a naturopathic doctor. And I was like, okay, what should my Instagram handle be? And my middle initial starts with a U. And so I was like, Daisy U NatMed, like natural medicine. And I started looking at it and I was like, that looks like Daisy Untamed. And when I thought about my journey and everything that I've been through, I was like, I grew up watching The Lion King. That was my favorite childhood movie ever. And I feel like my journey so closely mimics that of Simba's, right? Like, he's this powerful little lion cub and he knows exactly who he is. And it's like, as he grows up, he loses himself, but then he finds himself, he reclaims his power. He comes back to, like, claim his kingdom and own the jungle. And it's like, that is truly, I think, as adults, as humans on this planet, that's the journey that we make, is reclaiming our power truly. And so I like to think that I'm here to remind people, the lion in you is sleeping, but it's not dead. That is my whole, it's in there. It's in there. Mine's in there. Yours is in there. Let's find it. Let's reclaim our power together. And so I was like, all right, Daisy Untamed. It's perfect. It's like a lion. It's fierce. I think some people thought maybe I was a stripper, and I was like, I can see that. That's not what I was going for. And sorry, y'all.
No, that's not what I got from it.
Nope. So yeah, so it's Daisy, DAISY _ untamed, UNTAMED. And that will be the place where, once I have my website and my course to launch, I'll be posting that there. I want to continue growing my audience. And the goal is, at some point, I want to be my own boss, and hoping that course provides a full source of income so that I can create my own podcast and be an author and just be my own boss and live life on my own terms. Because while I am grateful for my corporate job, it's, I've always wanted to be my own boss and have time and financial freedom. And, um, I feel like there's never enough hours in the day to do what I want to do and pursue the things that set my soul on fire. And I can't wait to get there. So that's currently.
Woohoo! You are just incredible. You are amazing, and I'm so excited to see like where this path takes you because you have just such a glorious future ahead of you. Like I could just see it just shining. Like it's just beautiful. Amazing. Thank you so, so much for coming on my podcast and sharing all of your amazing wisdom. Like just like so many like jewels just scattered throughout this whole story and like how much people can just learn from you and from your story and from everything you've been through is so beautiful. And just thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm so grateful to be able to share all of those things and hope it helps somebody out there, even just one person.
Absolutely. And it's already helped me. Like I have just loved everything you've said.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much and I hope you have a beautiful evening.
Thank you so much. You too. Have a good one.
You too. Bye. Yes, yes, yes. I just loved everything that Daisy had to teach us today. Her story is so inspiring, and I just am so, so certain she's going to go on to do just seriously incredible things. If you have the opportunity, please go follow her on Instagram at Daisy_Untamed. She is going to just be such a force in the future. Like, I'm just so excited for everything she's about to do. So here are the takeaways. Number 1. Indecision is a decision. The hardest no is always the closest one to a yes. Number 2, moving and taking up space helped her to reclaim her power and helped her start becoming confident. You should do that too. That's my little hint for you. Moving and taking up space. Like, what an empowering thought. All right, number 3, the opposite of anxiety is confidence. Number 4, we are divine beings who are inherently powerful. Yes. Number 5, it's so easy to label our emotions, right? We label them good or bad or right or wrong, but how much shame and guilt and suffering does that bring us? And it doesn't need to. She likes to teach her students to view their emotions through the lens of neutrality, with acceptance, with gratitude. Not judging them, not labeling them, just allowing them to be, because they're all messengers. Our emotions have so much wisdom to bring us. Number 6, we don't have to wait until we are broken. Self-improvement should be something we are always, constantly prioritizing in our lives. Number 7, we can literally change the entire trajectory of humanity just by healing ourselves. And if you want to know how, go back and listen. She talks about how it's a rolling influence as we influence those around us, especially our kids. Like, it's so great. And number 8, people need hope. They need to know you are not the patterns. You are not the behaviors. You are not the way you respond in conflict. You can change those things. Number 9, health is not just physical wellness. It's mental freedom. It's emotional freedom. And lastly, number 10, the lion in you is sleeping, but it's not dead. Let's reclaim our power together. Woo, goodness, Daisy just had so much knowledge to drop. It was actually really hard to just narrow it down to those 10. She was just so amazing, mind-blowing. I loved this interview. I'm looking forward to a lot of really amazing guests coming up in the future. Please like this episode, subscribe to the podcast, share it. If this touched you and like made you feel something, please share it with somebody who could use this message. I know that there are so many of us who just really need to know that we can change and improve and be better, because it's really true. We have so much potential and there's such a bright future ahead of all of us. So thank you so much for listening today, and please don't forget to come back next week, and I'm going to leave you with a song. but still I hesitate. So many just enjoy the ride, but that's not how I feel inside. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help but fight for control on this roller coaster. This roller coaster. Forcefully it's pulling, constraining violently. So long I felt the pain, wondered if I'm going insane. These bars feel like a cage, but perhaps they keep me safe. For freedom I call and call, but with it I would fall. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help but fight for control on this roller coaster. This roller coaster. There's pain pressing on my chest. I'm trying my best. I know I'm supposed to endure, but how I'm not quite sure. Alone it feels unfair. Is anyone there? Suddenly I see the one who rides with me. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help fight for control on this roller coaster. On this roller coaster.